When you start living with the end in mind, everything starts to change. What are people going to say about you? What message is your life going to speak when you're long gone? Because you weren't born by accident. You didn't just happen to be where you're at and happen to watch this video. There is always a reason. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Fuse Life podcast, where we're all about your God-given assignment. And we dive into the fact that heaven meets earth in and through you. And my guest today is a neurosurgeon. Yes, not just saying that, but she is a neurosurgeon and a neuroscientist, and has been working in this field for nearly 20 years all up, and is probably someone that's walking the middle road of kingdom and what that looks like, bringing science and faith where they merge and mesh. And she probably is going to say this way better than I'm saying it. But I'm super excited to have Dr. Darlene here with us. Darlene, thank you so much for making time and hanging out with us today.
Oh, thank you, Joseph. I was so delighted to get your message and have the invitation to be here. I love what you're doing. I love sharing all things kingdom, and I love sharing the insights the Lord has given me about how to use keys in science to really unlock those kingdom secrets. So, yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Can you just let people know a little bit about you for those that don't know you?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I did practice as a neurosurgeon for a long time. I still am licensed physician, but I'm not actually in people's brain physically anymore. However, what I say is I do spiritual brain surgery now. So yeah, I started out as an entrepreneur probably four years ago now. Very quickly, you know, it was an interesting story. I had spent my entire life either studying to be a neurosurgeon, training to be a neurosurgeon, or practicing as a neurosurgeon. And if you would have asked me what I did for a long time, that would be all I would say. And that was my entire identity, was I'm a neurosurgeon. That's what I am. That's what I do. That's all I have time for. And then one day I remember in prayer, you know, because I've been a Christian my whole life. I tell people I came out of the womb praising Jesus.
Wow.
But I was living kind of this double identity, right? So I'm practicing as a neurosurgeon. A lot of my colleagues didn't even believe in God and thought I was ridiculous for praying before surgery, praying over my patients, right? And they'd be like, because I'd tell them, don't bother me while I'm at the sink scrubbing my hands. I'm in prayer, so don't be talking to me, right? I'm like, you're crazy. And then I'd be at church, right? And they'd say, well, who needs science? You don't need science at all. God, you know, who doesn't need that. And so I struggled, and I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And it was so frustrating, right? And then in prayer one day, because, you know, I was very much wanting to just submit everything to God, right? And God said, do you really want to submit everything to me? And I said, yeah. No, what are you going to ask me to do? And he said, what if I asked you to give up neurosurgery? Would you do it? And I said, I got to think about this one. I'm like, that's all I know how to do. And I had heard so many people over the years telling me, Darlene, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You're going to do this job. You're going to work till you're 62, whatever. You're going to retire. And that's who you are. And that's all you can do. What other skills could you possibly have other than being a brain surgeon? So you might as well, I know it's a hard life, but you're just going to have to deal with it. So I was under the belief that was the only thing I could ever do in my life. But I was willing to surrender it. And so after much thought and prayer, I said, yeah, I got it. I said, if you ask me to, I will. At the time, hoping it was one of those things like where Abraham was asked to sacrifice Isaac and he didn't have to actually do it, right? Yeah. But the Lord did in 2017, he said, you need to leave the practice of neurosurgery. And I just gotten married at the time, which is another whole story for another whole day. But, and my husband, he told my husband to leave his W-2 job at the same time.
Wow.
Newlyweds, I had just adopted 2 children, and both of us left our only source of stable income at the same time and moved from Ohio to Florida. Talk about faith.
Yeah.
That was a faith leap for sure, but it's something that I've been graced with, is that ability to, you know, take those leaps even when there's nothing that makes sense. So, you know, what I started out doing, the Lord said, well, take your knowledge and write a book. So I wrote a book. That was my very first book. And it was about a topic that I had, you know, for patients that I had operated on, but I was giving them holistic treatments for something that people thought literally there was only a surgery and one medicine they could take. And I wrote this whole book about 50 holistic treatments they could do. Was really well received. And I started really studying how to use neuroscience in a different way, right? Rather than just, what can I poke in the brain and cause changes, but how can we take advantage of the brain chemicals and the brain electrical activity, and the power of the mind is so great. And then I had an opportunity through some of my research when I was living in France many years ago now, to really study this incredible part of the brain that I studied from a purely research perspective. The Lord gave me an insight into the part of the brain, which is so cool, because here's what it does. It literally connects the spiritual and physical realms. That's what this part of the brain is designed to do. And so I started to use this to help people connect with the kingdom in ways that are powerful, to connect with the Lord, right? To get insights into who they are as a person and what they are called to do, and then give them strategies to actually be able to walk those out. And so that is what I do now, is really, it's amazing. There's no blueprint for it at all, but I get people incredible breakthroughs when they really connect with their core identity. Because the truth is, and I was an example of this. Most people go through their whole life and have no clue who they truly are. Right. So, I describe identity. I like to use food analogies because they're easy. So I describe identity as an artichoke, right? So there's the artichoke heart and there's all these leaves. And most people spend their life being a leaf when they are not actually being the core, the heart of who they are. And that's what I was doing. One of my leaves was practicing neurosurgery, right?
Wow.
The core of who I am, I'm actually is a healer. That is the core of who I am. And because I wasn't being who I was called to be, I was never fully satisfied in my career. And that's what I hear from my clients all the time. I deal with a lot of high profile clients sometimes that are, major CEOs of these corporations. And they're like, I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm just not satisfied. What's next? Not doing what you're supposed to do. You're being like this tiny fraction of what you're called to be. Let's figure out how God created you. And then that's when they take off and find the freedom that they're looking for.
Come on. I love this. There's so much you've gone into. I'm like, man, that's a great subject. That's a great subject. That's a great subject.
I'll stop talking now.
Because we're all about purpose here. And so everything you're saying has been my message for all these years, probably without the depth of the science behind it, and we can go into some of these. So can we rewind back? You said that, you came out the womb praising Jesus. Can you talk us through your early days, like maybe 10 to 20 years old, from 0 to 20, what was going on in your world at that time?
Yeah, so it was not an ideal childhood. My parents got divorced when I was 3 years old, so I really grew up without much contact with my dad. My mom had incredible faith in the Lord, and so she taught me about Jesus. Since before I can remember, I was learning Bible verses the same time I was learning times tables. And so, we had a rough life. I mean, I moved probably 20 times before I was 18 years old. So didn't really have that stability of a home. And, what was very interesting is, as a child, I made a declaration at that time. Very interesting. Be careful what you declare over life, because it can work out for a little while, but it's usually not good for a long time. I said, I'm not sure exactly what I knew. I wanted to be a doctor, but I said, I don't know exactly what branch of medicine I want to go into, but whatever I do, I am never going to be dependent on anyone other than myself to survive. So I know that's why, God eventually is like, all right, little missy. Okay, you've done well for yourself as a neurosurgeon. Now, guess what? You're going to depend on me, and I'm going to show you what the truth is, because you are not the source of what you have. And so that was a lesson I did not enjoy learning. Because I stepped out as an entrepreneur. I was so naive, naive. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be back to my neurosurgeon salary in 6 months. We're going to be good. That is not what happened at all.
Wow. I
Yeah.
bet you most people would not expect you to have that kind of a background. Would that be right?
Yeah, no, I mean, people are very surprised about me, but that's something that's been very consistent throughout my life. Because even as a neurosurgeon, I'd walk into the room and, at 35, I looked pretty young too. And, it's, you can't be a neurosurgeon. You're supposed to be an old man with like gray hair and a beard. So
Yeah.
I've been misconstrued my whole life, but that's okay.
Wow. Well, okay, let's go into that a little bit. Just this time period, like, how did you get into this part of the medical field? What drove you in there?
Into neurosurgery?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I loved working with my hands. I loved studying, and I'm a person that I've noticed I get bored very easily. I love to create, I love to innovate, and then, I tend to want the next thing. And so when I started shadowing a neurosurgeon, I was like, oh, wow, we don't know anything about the brain. We know like this much about the brain. I could study my whole life and never discover everything. And so that's one of the reasons why I went into neurosurgery. The amazing thing is, though, when I started studying about the kingdom of God, I found the exact same thing. I can study about the kingdom of God my whole life and never learn everything. And then the intermeshing of the two is just so incredibly powerful. So, yeah.
Wow. And so why don't we go into this a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe can we touch just on one more thing before we go into it? Like, so here you are, you're doing all these amazing things in terms of you become a neurosurgeon, neuroscientist, and yet there is still something more for you.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit? And why an entrepreneur? How did you end up there? What was that transition like?
Yeah. So, I loved what I did, and I loved actually helping my patients. And the field of neurosurgery I was in, it's treatment of movement disorders. So the surgery I would do was very simple, and it would really radically transform someone's life very quickly, right? And allow them to do the things they wanted to do. And so I loved that part of it. But I got very frustrated, not only with, the hours were insane, which I didn't notice so much when I was single and had no children. But then I adopted 2 children as a single woman, and I had an au pair that my children were then calling mom after 2 months because I never saw them. And so I started to have these desires for things that I'd never had desires for before. I guess a remote inkling of wanting to have children and definitely to get married at some point. But I just had pushed all that aside. I'd pushed those dreams aside. I said, those dreams are not for me. Don't ever push your dreams aside, because they are always from the Lord. Any passion that you have in your heart, folks, let me tell you this. You may not understand, but the origin of it is from the King of Kings. So you ask him for clarity and understanding of it, and he will show you something beautiful. But as far as stepping out as an entrepreneur, really, I didn't know what else to do, Joseph, to be honest with you. I'm like, well, I'm not a neurosurgeon anymore. I'm not practicing. So what in the world am I going to do? I guess I'm going to have to open a business. So that's what I did, and paid a lot of consultants a ridiculous amount of money that I was nowhere near prepared for what they had to teach me at that time, but I didn't know what else to do. Which again, that's one of the things I work with my clients on. And I know you do this too, is like, when you know who you are as a person, you know what you need. But when you don't know who you are, you wind up grabbing for this. It's shiny object. And then someone tells you, oh, YouTube is the way. You got to go take this course in how to be a YouTuber and be successful. That may not be how you're designed. Not everyone is good on camera. I was just consulting with a lady last week, and she's like, I just bought this expensive program. I got to make videos every day, and I'm terrified. She came to me. This is why she came to me, because she wanted me to help her using brain science tips and tricks so that she could be on camera, which I'm perfectly capable of doing, but that wouldn't serve her. And I said, no. We're going to figure out who you are and where you shine. And it was on camera. And it was through writing, which is incredible. And she was literally squelching that gift because somebody told her she needed to be something that she wasn't designed for. And so for me, like, I love it. Like the way folks light up when they connect with, like, really, can I do that? Is that okay? And I see this too from a spiritual standpoint, right? People are like, oh, well, there was one client I worked with, and she's like, well, I've been told I have to rest in the Lord, and I just can't sit still. I cannot sit still. Even, I lead folks through these activations. She's like, I can't sit still for it. So I started exploring. Turns out she's a dancer. She's literally designed for movement. And I'm like, you're not supposed to be sitting in the presence of the Lord. You're supposed to be dancing with Jesus. Why don't we try doing that? And she's like, can I do that? But these people, they've told me I've got to sit still and I've got to be in this posture and do this. I'm like, no, that's not how you were created. And, and actually her gift, she didn't even know this, right? But her gift, because it's part of the brain I was just talking about that connects the spiritual and physical realm, it literally sits in the area that controls our movement. It's called the mirror neuron network, but it controls our movement. So when you move and dream at the same time, you actually enhance your ability to hear from God and to bring manifestation of what he has shown you into this world. Wow. So cool. He had an amazing gift.
So much sense. Yeah. I mean, this makes so much sense. With our coaching, I talk about exploring and engaging with the Father. And so a lot of what you're saying here is now making more and more sense to me, including people that find more connection when they go for a walk or they go for a hike, and everyone's so different, right? So I love it. So can we go into this a bit deeper, just in terms of why do you think that people, like what you just said about, are we allowed to do that? Am I allowed to do that? And that seems to happen a lot in, traditional Christianity. It seems to happen in the educational sector. It seems to happen everywhere in life. Am I allowed to be me? Am I allowed to, push the boundaries? What are your thoughts on that, where that comes from and why that's so prevalent?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because here's what you have to understand about the brain. Every time you have a thought, you actually form a pathway in your brain, okay? And just like if you were walking a path in the woods one time, you might have a little bit of a path, but if you walk that path over and over and over again, it's going to be a pretty well-formed path. Thoughts work the same way in your brain. There is, the more times you have this thought, the deeper ingrained this pathway gets, the more efficient your brain strives for efficiency. So you eventually develop super highways of thought in your brain that eventually form a prison. A lot of the times, limiting you, telling you what you can do, what you can't do. And it's usually not based on who you truly are. It's based on what you've listened to other people tell you who you are. Okay. So one of the things I like to do is teach people how to take a jackhammer to those super highways of thought that are not based on the truth and reveal really who they are. Because when you look at the brain, it's amazing. Your brain is designed for limitlessness. Literally. You create 1,500 new brain cells each and every day.
Wow.
Your brain is designed for expansion. You know what happens if you use them? Your brain starts forming connections and helps you build from where you are today to where you've told it you want to be, right? If you don't use them, guess what? They turn into toxins. They turn into like waste that your brain then has to get rid of. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then this mirror neuron network, right? This is you can probably appreciate this. This is what Olympic level athletes use to train. They go through their physical activity, and then they go through it in their minds too. They're using their mirror neuron network, and it is the equivalent amount of training. And they do it in their mind. They go down a ski run in their mind. It actually trains their muscles. This is some research I did when I was practicing, right? And I was working with patients with a spinal cord injury. And, we would, even people with chronic spinal cord injury, when we could help them use their minds through various systems that we used, they would start to see movement in muscles they had not seen in years. Okay.
Wow.
So your brain, all you have to do is give it the what you want. And it will form the pathway from where you are to where you want to be.
Amazing.
We get stuck on the how. You're not supposed to know the how. That's God's job. That's your brain's job. It works better if you don't tell it how.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
And so when you say they see it in their mind, this is kind of like engaging their imagination, right?
Yeah.
Visualization,
Yeah,
what a lot of athletes do talk about.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So when it comes to transformation and change, and as a coach, and I'm a coach, this is a stumbling block or a blockage I see a lot showing up for people, is that fear of change or the fear of the new or the fear of people's opinions. Can you speak to that a little bit and what's happening in the brain when someone's trying to change?
Yeah. So fear is tough, because fear will try to shut down the thinking and reasoning parts of your brain. And there's a lot of complex chemical, electrical reactions I don't need to go into right now. But essentially, it goes into a very basic part of your brain that literally is in survival mode when you are afraid. Here's the thing, though. Our identity, people, we strive for freedom. And if you think about it, everything you do is a search for freedom, right? What do? We go, we get a job, we earn money, we put it in retirement so we can be free when we retire, right? Or if we're politically inclined, we're searching for freedom, or we're searching for safety because we feel like that is freedom, right? So we literally are striving for this, but we're striving for it from the wrong place. Like what you don't understand is you literally already have the freedom inside of you. Everything, one of my favorite scriptures in 2 Peter 1:3, everything you need for life and godliness is already in you. And it's those pathways, they're already in your brain. But when they get covered up, your true identity gets covered up by lies that you've heard over the years. Your parents maybe that told you, oh, you'll never do this, you can't do that, or a teacher or a friend or a mentor even, right, that says you can never do this. Then you start basing everything you do on a false identity. Your brain is very protective of its identity. Your brain will literally treat like a virus anything that it does not believe is true. This is why affirmations in the traditional sense do not work. Okay. You can say till you're blue in the face, I am a creative person. I create wealth strategies to help people get freedom. You can say it all day, but if you don't believe that's who you are, never going to happen. Because the other thing is your identity centers and your goal directed behavior centers, same spot. Same spot. So you have to believe that you are the kind of a person who can achieve a goal in order to actually achieve it. It's another thing I get clients, they come to me all the time. They're like, I'm procrastinating, Dr. Mayo. Help me stop procrastinating. I can teach you how to do that, but that's not going to serve you, right? You're procrastinating because either you're trying to be something that you're actually not even supposed to be, or you're trying to be something that you're supposed to be, but you just don't believe it. So what we do in that case is we go back to the origin of the lie that started these false pathways. And we go back, and I use these activations, brain science strategies to activate this part of the brain to help you identify that in a memory. So somebody that said something over you, or sometimes it's very subtle. It's an experience you had in your childhood or early adulthood, and you interpreted it one way. And so what I do is I bring them back to that moment, and then we invite the Lord in and say, where were you in this situation, and what were you thinking about this situation? Because I can promise you the origin of that lie, it's never based on the truth. And when you understand what actually was going on at the time, then it breaks you free from these lies that have been trapping your brain in prison. So
So then how do you take someone from they are saying it, they're affirmations, but they don't believe it, to coming into that actual belief, that place of they believe it? What are some ways that people can do that?
Yeah, so very specific strategies. I mean, I have a lot of different systems that I use based on what people like. But here's something anyone can really do, right? The scriptures tell us that we were created in the secret place, right? In Psalm 139, we know this, right? And so what I invite, and I usually lead people in this, but you can do this on your own. You go with the Lord in your mind, right? And you say, take me back to the moment you created me. Take me back there. and show me what aspect of you placed in me. It's really powerful because you get revelation of aspects of yourself that are actually aspects of God, because there is nothing that's in you or me or anyone else that did not originate from God, right? And so when you say, what part of you did you put in me at this time, Lord? I do this every morning personally. And then show me how you want me to express that today. And like literally your whole day will lay itself out. You don't have to make a to-do list. You don't have to make plans. It's like the other day I was doing this and the Lord said, you're a freedom giver. I was like, oh, that's awesome. How am I going to do that? He's like, you don't need to worry about it. Just go and be yourself. It's like a butterfly. You just be who you are, right? And everything. It just, so that's a strategy that I use. And obviously there's, ways to, I usually lead people through creativity exercises in advance, because that actually helps to spark this part of the brain. So there's very specific strategies you can use for creativity. You don't have to be an artist. People always say, oh, I can't draw. You don't have to do that. You can learn a word in a foreign language. That sparks your creativity center. You can look at, one of those images that like you can see in two different ways, right? And try and figure it out and see it both ways. That actually activates the mirror neuron network in your brain and helps you to get to that point where you can communicate with Father God and get insight into these aspects of who you are. So that's definitely a strategy I use with a lot of my clients that you can use. So.
That's amazing. And it's so refreshing to hear that from a neurosurgeon or a neuroscientist perspective. We've had a lot of mystical people come on the podcast and talk about creating from that space and using your imagination and doing the very thing that you just said about going back to that place and asking the Lord, what was the dream you had when you made me, And that is so powerful. What about the power of emotion when it comes to your neural pathways? And, I've studied a little bit about this and I love this stuff. Can you speak to that emotion, trauma, and how that can speed up or heighten or increase these pathways and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, you should know that every memory is the emotion related to that memory is stored with the memory until you intentionally choose to separate it. Okay.
Wow.
You can separate it. And I do a lot of work with folks that have PTSD and gone through traumas in life to help them do this, but it's stored there. And it actually, when you've had a very traumatic experience, that memory gets very robustly stored. That's why these triggers that don't even seem like they make any sense, they can just send somebody back into that moment, right? And what happens in those times, your emotions are designed to be a thermometer, not a thermostat. Right?
Yep.
If you had a temperature, you take your temperature, it's 104. What do? Go to the doctor, drink fluids, take some ibuprofen, rest, right? What do we do with our emotions? We notice, I'm really depressed today. I'm really anxious today. And we sit there in it, right?
Yeah.
Emotions are literally designed. Whenever you're feeling any intense emotion, the first thing you should do is go to Father God and say, why am I feeling this? What's going on that I don't know about, that I need to know about? And help me, because it's a clue. It's a spiritual clue that there's something that needs to change, that you need to do. And we miss that so much. And trauma, that can be complicated, of course. So, we have to do that. We have to work through that process very specifically. But the thing is, too, that a lot of folks don't know is the heart and the brain are actually very connected. Okay. There's this whole system. When I was in medical school, okay, didn't know this existed, right? But you literally have like 40,000 brain cells around your heart, and it stores things like memories and emotions. And do you know what? Your heart sends more signals to your brain than vice versa.
Wow.
That's why we get ruled by our emotions instead of using them as cues and signals to actually make a change. Right.
Wow. So when somebody goes through something like, let's say the lies that we talked about just before,
Mhm.
and they come like from someone you love, and they have a lot of passion and emotion or anger behind there, and so we
Mhm.
receive that. Are you saying that that has more power than just a flippant statement, and that
Absolutely.
takes you deeper into that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you literally to separate the emotion from the memory, because in general, the Lord won't usually take the whole memory away. I've seen that in very few circumstances, because there's usually something you need to remember about that
Mm,
memory. You're not supposed to
mm,
be in pain. The scriptures tell us that we're supposed to release our pain to the Lord. So, taking folks back to that and really helping them see the truth of what was going on, and that really it was probably the person speaking whatever over them was in a lot of pain, right?
mm,
And we
mm,
miss that because we're so shocked or trapped in our own pain that we miss. That's also why it's hard for us to forgive, right? Because we
mm,
don't. But the moment I do a lot of forgiveness work with folks too, that they can see, look, this other person was in this incredible amount of pain. They had no idea what they were doing, and so they attacked in whatever way. Sometimes it's physical, emotional, or through words or whatever. But then seeing that the Lord wants to heal them. He wants to heal you. And so going through that and seeing the Lord forgive them, see the Lord forgive anything, even your unforgiveness towards them, man, that is
mm,
so freeing. It's so, so powerful of an
mm,
experience to really release that. And then they can remember the
mm,
time and not get triggered. So.
mm.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick minute to tell you about our Royal Hybrids group coaching program. Over a year ago, the Lord started speaking to me about a group of people, a tribe that would only get their value, their affirmation, that would only get their identity from who they are in God and nothing else. And from that place, they were going to do great things on the earth. In the last year, we have seen a whole bunch of people jump into our program, solidify themselves in their identity with God, and from that place, actually start to engage their purpose. Fuse Life talks about the 6 trees: your spirit, your soul, your body, and then your relationships, your finances, and your purpose. We have seen a whole bunch of people come through this, get solidified in who they are, and then begin their own projects, whether it's a teen mums project, whether it's a coaching, counseling business, or a painting business, publishing your children's book, publishing a puzzle book. We have seen people do all of these kind of things, and we just know that this is just the beginning. So you want to go to www.fusebornformore.com/Royal Hybrids, or just click the link in the caption and make sure to check out what we are doing. We would love to have you as part of our tribe. Now, back to the podcast.
So do you think that a person can move past trauma or, crazy situations in their past without actually confronting some of this? Is it even possible?
I haven't done, the work that I do is that, the Lord guides me into is always to go back to that. Although I will say, I do a lot of group setting work too. And if somebody has PTSD, then some of what I do is just help them to connect with the love of the Lord in their present situation, right? If they're really triggered, I'm not going to have them go back into memory when I can't be there one-on-one with them. But so the Lord can do a lot of healing with you. It's just recognizing, because a lot of folks, if they've had severe trauma, they can't even connect with God as a loving father, right? They see him as an angry God, checking things off and, oh, you did this well and you didn't do this well. And so here's your punishment and here's your blessing, right? That's not who God is. He's love. That's what we learn about him, right? So they have trouble even connecting with our Father God as love. And so I help work with them on that first. And then as they get filled more with the love of God, then they are able to eventually go back to some of those moments. So,
Would you say that a lot of people have actually gone through PTSD, maybe some without realizing or downplay their trauma, or feel like they're not allowed to say that they've, been affected like that?
yeah, absolutely. And I would say a lot of the world is probably in PTSD right now. Quite honestly.
And so what media is doing and all this craziness that's going on is definitely now messing with brains of the mass population, right?
Yes, it's there's a lot of fear tactics. I mean, whatever decision you make as you're looking at information you make, right? I'm not here to tell you what to think, absolutely. But the way things are presented, it is completely based on fear-based tactics and control-based tactics, which is the exact opposite. That's why people are so resistant to it, right? Because we're created for freedom. We're created for limitlessness. And so when people try to induce control measures and fear measures, like something deep inside us, you may not even know what it is, but it's like screaming, like, no, I don't want that, right? And so, there's a way to present information and let people make their own decisions about things, right? And
so what happens when people are in a sustained, like what's happening in your brain if you're in a sustained period of fear or just trying to self-preservation or just trying to keep yourself safe? What happens? I would think that there is a negative backlog.
The fear response is designed to be very short-lived. Okay. It's literally designed to help you get away from a danger. All right. That's why it was created. But when we are in a constant state of fear, what happens is your body releases this hormone called cortisol. It does many things. It releases adrenaline when you first feel fear, but then it releases cortisol, which in limited amounts, cortisol can be helpful, but over a chronic basis, it does things like pressure immune system. It gives you coronary artery disease, all kinds of really, really bad things. But the worst thing that it does is that it limits your ability to critically think and to form memories, lasting memories. So now you have a tendency to believe whatever you hear, right? And you're literally incapable of analyzing information because of this. The other thing cortisol does that is really difficult for the brain is one of its jobs is to replace the adrenaline that's released when you're first afraid. And a lot of times it will pull from some other brain chemicals in order, like building blocks, okay, to replace adrenaline. It pulls it from dopamine, which is your happiness brain chemical, your motivating chemical. It pulls it from serotonin, which is your calming chemical, your memory chemical. It pulls it from oxytocin, which is your trust and bonding chemical. So you literally can become depressed, anxious, and very angry when you are in this chronic state of fear. And it's not your fault. It's your brain, it's doing the best it can do. But there's wonderful, powerful strategies. And one of the greatest is literally connecting with the Lord, right? Who, when you can connect with him as a loving father, guess what? They've done studies on this. Your oxytocin goes up. Okay.
Wow.
So you can actually overcome this through relationship with the Lord.
That is so amazing. And all of these hormones and chemical reactions you're talking about, just in union with God, in union with the Trinity, is getting sorted out. That is amazing. So when you meet people that have a heightened cortisol level, what is something that you can suggest to them to start dropping that and start to reduce that?
Yeah. So perfect love drives out fear. So that's what we do. So we go to a time in their life when they felt very loved or felt loving towards somebody. And it can be it might be a grandparent way back when. It might be an animal. Sometimes that's all people have. They're like, I don't feel loved by anybody except my dog. That's okay. Wow. You can actually use it and connect with that love. And then we show them the love of Father God. Like it's like magnified so much more over just that little bit of love, but it's a bridge. Okay. In the brain, you have to connect what you know to what you're not sure about, right? In order to cause that transformation. So we use that as a very, very powerful bridge. And I have a lot of folks that come into my community that I run to, that when they come in, they say, I don't see God as loving. And like they can't even understand when I say, oh, God loves you. He's telling you he loves you. Like, no, I can't see it. And they have to go back and connect to one of those memories where they actually felt love. Or even sometimes it's what you imagine love is. If you've had a really difficult life and you never felt loved by anything or anyone, what do you imagine love would be? I was working with a client last night that was the piece.
Wow.
No.
Well, I mean, this conversation is going very different to our normal podcasts. I mean, I feel like I'm sitting in front of an encyclopedia, and so I'm just like sifting through here. I hope you don't mind that we're going this way. Is that okay? We good?
It's good with me. Hopefully it's okay with your followers.
Yeah, well, this is so good. I think people are learning, and I think I don't even know how to explain, because I think on many dimensions, what you do and what you're saying just causes people to engage God and engage walking with him without any worry, and I love it. So let me go into this here. So let's say someone has had all this negative talk towards them, like we see in these experiments with the rice, and you speak good things to one dish and bad things to another, or a plant. Right. What is the connection? Like, I've heard that when someone says something negative, that you have to now replace that with many positive statements, not just one or two, to combat that. What's the truth there, and what are your thoughts on that?
I do not believe that. Okay. And here's why. Because out of the light and the darkness, the light is more powerful. Okay. So I know the studies say that's the case. But here's what I believe is that when somebody speaks something negative, it's actually because that's not the first time they've heard that, right? And so that pathway has already been formed, and it's just solidifying it when they're hearing this negative thing again. But the truth, which is much more powerful, that, they are a loving person, you're a generous person, you're, whatever these gifts that the Lord has placed in you, that is always more powerful. And as you speak that into someone, and really importantly, have the Lord speak it into you, because I can tell you till you're blue in the face, but until you hear it from the Lord and see it actually. So I help them through, these activations to actually see God putting this beautiful, Ephesians 2:10 says, you're God's masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing, right? And so, leading people through this so that then those pathways get highlighted, because the pathways of truth are already there. They don't need to actually be built, okay? They're already there. They just need to be highlighted and brought to the surface, and all the junk needs to be washed away.
Yeah. Man, I'm loving this conversation. I feel in some ways my message, what I do, is being validated by a certified genius in front of me here. I'll tell you something funny. 3 years ago, I was in Kerala on a missions trip, South India, and I began writing a little booklet called The Simplicity of Happiness. And in that, I was thinking, if I can hack the neurochemical reactions that are going on, if we can hack that, then we could step into everything God has for us, And the book was called The Simplicity of Happiness. But as I went deeper into the chemicals, it was not simple anymore in my head. I stopped writing the book because it went so complex. So it is so
that needs
good.
to be revived, Joseph. So I'll be happy to take a look at that with you and help you with it, because it's actually a lot more simple. And that is very, very powerful too.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so I really feel like my calling, my mandate, my mission is to mobilize people into their purpose. And a lot of what you're saying is stuff I've thrown in there and stuff I've learned from Caroline Leaf. And I talk about this stuff a lot. And maybe at some point it'd be amazing if we get to do something together, and in terms of a course and helping people map this out, moving forward. I'd love to know your thoughts on quantum physics, on I don't know, can we go there? We'll go into some of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked a lot about that in there, so yeah.
Okay, cool. So just your thoughts. Anyway, you take it where you want to go. I'm just very curious.
All right. So I guess I'll start with the basis of what I wrote my book about, which is called The Science of God's Healing Power. And the Lord took me to these particular verses, and even like the fact I even wrote this book was totally divine intervention, because despite the fact that I was a healer in the traditional sense and a kingdom person, I literally never thought about the science behind supernatural healing until somebody asked me to write about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I said yes. And then I went to God and I'm like, now what am I going to write? And he's like, I gotcha. Don't worry. So he brought me to these verses on the fact that God is light, right? Jesus is light. He's the light of the world. We are the light of the world. And so I started studying the science of light, which takes you deep into quantum physics, right? And so this is so cool, right? Because light, it exists as particles that move in the form of a wave, which, what do you know about waves? You drop a pebble in a pond, you get ripples and you get expansion. Like the nature of the fact that God is light, he's all about expansion. You're created in his image. You're created for expansion. You're created for limitlessness. You see how all this is like tying together. It is amazing. One of the most beautiful parts, though, so one of my favorite things to do is take scriptures and understand the science behind them, right? And it just opens up a whole new meaning. So one of my favorite scriptures, which is probably one of many people's favorite scriptures, is Ephesians 3:20. It is by God's power at work in us that he's able to accomplish exceedingly abundantly more than we can ask or imagine. When the light of God comes into you and combines with your light on the same wavelength, two wavelengths of light that are the same actually don't produce an additive effect. They don't even produce a multiplied effect. They literally produce an exponential amount of power when combined. So as we align ourselves with the mind of Christ, that is where miracles happen. That's where we see healings and we see miracles like the loaves and the fishes, right? This is how Jesus, like, it is amazing how he, when you understand the quantum physics of something even as simple as light, right? But it's, I've got, I don't even know, probably 200 scriptures in my book where I'm talking about this. You don't realize there's so many in the scriptures about this, right? And about his power. And it's just, it's absolutely amazing. So that's a little short summary of my thoughts on quantum physics based on one of my favorite verses in the scripture. So
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that brings new light to like in 1 Corinthians, it talks about his spirit and our spirit becoming one, and it brings complete new light to that. So, man, there's so many things now. I'm just like, we go here, there. This is amazing. I'm stumped. So just in between, before I deal with my overload right now, why don't we just let people know how they can find you? Where can they find you and your website and even the book? And I'll put it in here.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is drdarlenemayo.com. It's all together. There's no periods in the middle of that. And then my book is The Science of God's Healing Power, which you can get at scienceofgodshealingpower.com, or it's available on Amazon, either way. And and then I also run a wonderful community called Healing Kingdom that started, interestingly, I took the book and started teaching from it one day a week, Monday through Friday. And then the next week, God said, teach it again. I was like, okay, I just taught this last week, but okay. And he said, teach it again for 12 weeks at the end of 2020.
Wow. Yeah.
This community grew like amazingly. It's not even 6 months old and we have 1,000 people in there now. And now what we do is we take a different healing topic each week and I teach the kingdom, the science behind it, what Jesus has to say about it, removing blocks, keeping you from getting your healing, and then putting it all together. And it's like, we see so many healings in there, healings of the body, of the mind, of the spirit. People get healed from stuff they don't even know is wrong with them until they get healed from it. And they're like, wow, I have, honestly, like somebody told me the other day, I wasn't even praying for healing in my marriage, but they got that through something. It was not even the topic for the week, right? And so it's really, really powerful. And so it's a free community. I do free teachings in there. We have deeper products and services, obviously, but that's it's a wonderful place, and we'd love to have anyone in there as well. So learn more about this kingdom and science together. That's what we do all day, every day.
Come on. So I've put that website on here, guys. I'll put it on the caption, and then I'll also get the link to that group and put that in there so people can jump in. If they want to search for that group, what is that group called?
It's called Healing in the Kingdom.
Healing in the Kingdom. Amazing.
Yeah.
And so interesting.
Yeah, we just did a conference last month. We just did a conference last month, and all that's available too. So folks can go. Those were some really awesome. We had some good guests on too. So that was a good one.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll take some questions, if you're okay with that. So type your
Of
questions
course.
in here, guys. And just before we go into that, so we call this Brain Secrets to a Limitless Life. Can you maybe shed some light on what do you mean by limitless? Like, what is available to us? You know, Jesus, John 14:12, he's like, greater things will you do, you know, and just before we even go there, I mean, I've heard of 2 stories of, I don't know if this is too far right now, but of people speaking an animal into being. I don't know if you heard the story, but there's
No.
Bobby Connor, who's I mean, he's a prophet. He's in his 70s. Many people know him. Speaks about a story where the Lord spoke to William Branham, I think it was, about he spoke a squirrel into being, and it just created it, you know. And he had a personal experience of doing that too a few years ago. So just in terms of limitless, like, what are your thoughts on that? And what is actually, when the Bible says that all of creation is waiting, groaning for these sons of God to manifest, what is your take on that?
Yeah, so here's the thing, and I talk a lot about this in my group. We're taught in Christianity that salvation is about eternal life in heaven, right? Like future. That's what we're taught. That is amazing and important, but you are supposed to be accessing the kingdom of God right now on the earth today. And if you're not doing that in a powerful way, you are missing out on blessing others and getting blessings for yourself too. I mean, it's a miracle, like, to do that. It's true. Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will come unto you. So here's the situation. A lot of the identity work I do with folks is I help them figure out which gift of the Spirit that is being highlighted in them, at least in this season, right? Because we can move in all of the gifts of the Spirit. I don't know what people have been taught, but you actually can move in all the gifts of the Spirit. It just depends on the time. But for each season, you usually have certain ones that are highlighted. So as I help people to uncover that, then they understand what they're called to do, right? If they like, if the highlight is the gift of miracles, right? Then you need to be expressing that gift, stewarding that gift, using that gift, understanding that you not only have the power, but you have authority in the kingdom, right? And you are supposed to be exercising it. Otherwise, you're literally like a king who has abdicated his throne. Like, we are called for so much more. And people get scared and they're like, and here's the things that I hear. I hear either, oh, but then I'm like God, and that's what happened to Lucifer, and I don't want that to happen. No, as long as you are submitting your will to the Father every day, and you're asking, I mean, things I do, I submit my will to God's will. He gives me free will because he loves me. I give him back my free will because I love him. I do it every day. And I ask him to shine light on anything, prune me every day to keep anything away that's not part of him, right? And then he allows me to operate in this incredible power in the kingdom, right? These healings, they're partly because it's through me, but it's his power, you know, combining with who I am that brings this. And so what I do is I help people understand what is that gifting and how does God want you to use that today, right? And then as you step into that, you get a greater measure of that gifting. So I haven't heard about the squirrels, but I imagine somebody operating in the gift of miracles. Obviously, I don't know what other gifts that would be. But that's somebody that has learned to submit, right? Okay. And surrender. The power is in the surrender, right?
Yeah.
It's actually not in the suffering. And people get that mixed up all the time. They're like, I got to suffer like Jesus suffered. How many days did he spend on a cross, folks? One day.
Yeah.
Right? What did he do? For years, he operated in the power of the kingdom. And now he operates from the throne. Like, don't take what is meant for a moment. This is good one. Don't take what is meant for a moment and expand it for a lifetime. Operate in the power and the authority that you are given. But you just submit to him and you will not go astray.
Which Jesus demonstrated submission and a yieldedness, a humility to his Father, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And so here we have you in your purpose, in your power. You can see it. You are in your lane, and it's amazing. Like, it's so much proof. Like, for everyone listening, this is what our message is, that you step into your version of this, whatever that looks like, So,
Yeah.
man, that's so good. All right. So we hit some of these questions. We got one here. It's a personal kind of one.
Yeah.
So you can read that, right?
Yeah, so I had 2 separate electrical sparks in 2020 in her sleep, and the left side of her brain could feel they were painful. When she woke up, had no pain or fear. What could that have been? That's hard to say. I know that the Lord a lot of times will speak to us while we are sleeping. A lot of times he has to literally shut off our brain in order to get a message to us. That's why he speaks to us through dreams a lot of the time. So that could be. I've definitely had experiences personally during the night where I felt power of Holy Spirit coming into me. So that could be what it is. It could be either awakening something or doing some healing. Because both of that sounds very reasonable. There's no, from a neuroscience standpoint, there's nothing concerning or pathological about that. So that, to me, is something spiritual that the Lord was doing with you. So here's what I would ask: what change did you notice after that, or insight did you notice, or increase in? The other thing that I see with this a lot is an increase in an up-leveling of the gift of the Spirit that you're operating in. So a lot of times that is a sign that is about to happen.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Here we go. Next question.
Okay. Could I shine light on chronic diseases and what your research reflects? Yeah. So that's very interesting. I talk about this in my book too. That really really all sickness and disease is literally caused by energy that has either been transformed or it has moved, I guess, so to speak. Okay, this is why, and a lot of folks don't like to hear this, but listen, there's actually kingdom and science behind acupuncture and even behind Reiki. Okay. When you submit it to the king. I know you probably, I've had folks tell me that I'm some false prophet for telling me, but let me tell you what, there's science and kingdom behind this. They've done studies on people who had near-death experiences, that our bodies carry this amount of infrared energy, right? That the Eastern folks would call chi, right? It's literally infrared light energy. But as they go into a near-death experience, they've measured the infrared light decreases, right? It's not being destroyed. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed, okay? And then when they come back, that infrared light energy, it restores. Okay. So a lot of chronic diseases are caused by either that energy that has left your body that's, needs to be replenished by the Lord, right? Or it's moved to a different place. This is why we see a lot of people that have one disease and then they have another disease too. I used to work with patients with Parkinson's a lot. They have these brain problems, they have gut problems too, because the energy, it's in the wrong place. It literally, it's supposed to be doing stuff in the brain, it's not doing, and it's now doing stuff in the gut that it's not supposed to be doing. It's out of alignment. Like everything, it comes back to alignment. The way you get healing is by allowing the Lord's power to flow through you and restore back to its natural function, what it is supposed to be. Okay. Now, regarding those different types of treatments that I mentioned, that to me has to be done by somebody that submits to the king. I'm never going to go to somebody that doesn't submit to the king for anything like that, right? Because I'm not going to dabble in that. But understand, it's literally just a scientific principle. And who created science? My Bible says God created all things, right? My Bible says the devil didn't create anything, that he's an imitator. He's not an originator. So these things that have been manipulated by the kingdom of darkness, I'm all about reclaiming them for the kingdom of God, because that is where they originated, right? Even terms like manifestation. I hear people all the time. They're like, oh, you can't use that word. That's new age. Oh, really? Because the verse and the prayer, even that Jesus taught his disciples, if you look in the Passion Translation, it says, Father, manifest your kingdom realm on earth so that your will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. Manifestation, God was the original manifestator, right? Manifestor, whatever that word is. He's the one that said, let there be light, and there was light, right? Like that did not come from the enemy. That came from him first. So I'm all about restoration, just like Jesus is about restoration. We are reclaiming all these things for the kingdom of God and their original purpose. That's such a powerful thing.
Man, that could be another episode on its own, just going into this conversation, you know, and maybe we do that at some point. Here's one more question.
Okay. Can babies in utero have high quantities of cortisol causing eczema or asthma, for example? Yeah. So babies in utero can definitely be affected by what's going on in the mother, and it can lead to some issues such as this. So, I'm not OBGYN in particular, but, just the way that the blood flow goes between the fetus and the mom, it can definitely impact. So it's really important when you are pregnant, definitely to, as much as you can, to stay connected with God, and so that you don't get into the state of overwhelm, but know that, he's a healer, right? He's a healer. And so he can heal all of these things. So.
Amazing. Do you have any techniques on bringing people's physical healing into being other than visualization? Is there anything else?
Yeah. So, first of all, I do want to make this distinction, because I used to actually use the word visualization, but what we do, it's so much more than that. I use activations now, because it's not just with your vision. It's using all your 5 senses. It's using your emotion. It's using your identity. It's using all these parts of yourself, and you're activating this part of the brain, which is very, very powerful. So I teach actually a mentorship program where I teach people how to move with the power of God, right, in a way that's unhindered, so that they can be intercessors for other people. But the main point that I teach people in my community is that you don't need an intercessor. You don't need an intercessor praying for your healing. Sometimes God uses intercessors, but you have direct access to the throne room. Let me tell you what. And you already exist in a healed and whole state in the kingdom of God right now. So, yeah.
Man, that's how stepping on toes. Boom.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to do that. Those of you that don't know me, Joseph knows
That's
me.
so good. That's so good. What causes a woman to go through menopause? Is it connected to the brain?
Yeah, so there's so the female hormones that are contained in the organs of fertility, those are actually controlled by the brain's processes. So yeah, that is it's designed for a certain period of time, but in the same way, this is why Sarah could have a baby at 99, right? Because the Lord worked through that and restored that hormonal function. So
wow. All right, I think there's the last question here.
Okay, so what are some techniques to overcome Chiari malformation in the brain? Okay, so yeah, Chiari, for those of you that don't know, so your brain obviously is housed in your skull, in the very back part of the brain sometimes, or the skull, it gets formed in a different way, so it causes pressure on the base of the brain and the brainstem, and that can cause problems like headaches. It can cause problems with being able to feel things normally, or even movement in some cases. So without knowing exactly, if I'm assuming you're asking from a medical standpoint what this is. So spiritually, obviously that's just connecting with Father God, and he can take care of that. But medically, sometimes it requires surgery, but it just depends on how severe that compression can be. But I'll tell you what I teach the folks that come into my program, right? That God will decide how he wants to heal you. The fact he wants to heal you is already a fait accompli. Okay, there is no question that he wants to heal you. So if you've been believing anything else, you can throw that out, because he wants to heal you. A lot of times we go to God and we say, I want my healing this way. I want supernatural, instant healing right now. And that's what I want. And sometimes he does that. And then sometimes he heals over time. The lepers that he healed, they actually were healed on the way to go to the priest, which was not like next door, folks, right? They had a long journey, and that's why it was so significant that the one leper actually came back, because he had gone all the way to the priest and come all the way back to find Jesus, right? So there can be a delayed healing. There are also, the Lord sometimes uses resources. Resources may be intercessors, it may be medicine, it may be surgery, it may be nutrition, it may be devices. And the Lord will heal in different ways at different times. He does. The Lord is not interested in what our idea is about how we want things to happen. He wants to partner with us on the what, right? The Lord orders our steps. And one of the things that I teach folks is you have to submit how you want to be healed to the Lord. Because if you're fixated on something and he wants to heal you a different way, his thoughts are not our thoughts, right? So we don't know everything going on, then you literally can miss your healing. You can miss your healing. And so I would invite you to go to the Lord and say, Lord, how do you want to heal me from this?
So
do you want
good.
it to be supernatural, or you want me to go to the doctor? What do you want me to do? So.
Wow. So many dimensions to this. This has been an amazing conversation. We've gone over an hour. It hasn't felt like that at all.
That's amazing. This has been awesome. I've enjoyed it so much. I feel like I just fire hose everyone.
It feels like we could go a day just doing something like this. And so I maybe we do a part 2. Are you open to that? We do a part 2.
I would love it. Yeah, absolutely. We can dive into some even touchier subjects.
Yeah. I think it's needed. And you talk about the brain, the bridge analogy, and I use that all the time about walking this bridge. And I think these kind of conversations are huge to bring the body from one side of the bridge into a manifest son, in the fullness of the kingdom. And it's been amazing. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time and
my pleasure.
I want to honor your journey, your calling. Like, that's amazing what you're doing. And I'm sure it's not easy, and it hasn't been easy. And I just want to thank you for who you are and what you're doing and the road you're paving. That's amazing.
Well, thank you, Joseph. It's interesting that you said it hasn't been easy. I'll tell you, when I started doing what I was called to do, it has been. It's been work, but it hasn't felt like work. And so I would and the funny thing is, it took me so long in life to get to the convergence of what I was truly supposed to be doing. Because practicing as a neurosurgeon, that was work all the time, right?
Yeah.
And now what I do, I go live every day. I run programs every day of the week, and I thrive on it, right?
Yeah.
It's just when you're being who you are called to be, it doesn't seem like work, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I get what you're saying, and I totally agree with that. What I'm meaning more, maybe we talk about this another time, is as you start to unleash who you are, maybe there's opposition or a bit of resistance or that kind of thing. And walking through that is not simple, right? Because you're constantly growing and evolving and having to. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? You got a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I can talk about that for just a minute, because here's the thing, is we always have to be attuned. Is the opposition because you're irritating the religious spirits, right? Or is the opposition a realignment from the Lord? And I'll give you a very simple way to know. If in the midst of the opposition, you're walking in complete peace, then you just keep on going, because you're right in the lane the Lord wants you to be. And I've, obviously been some controversial topics over the last couple of years. And through that time, I had complete peace, right? And people were like, how are you even dealing with that? I was going insane. And I'm, nope. And I was able to move in grace. I was able to, just block out any negativity and just do what the Lord was calling me to do. But when you are getting opposition and you don't feel in peace, that's when you go to the Lord and say, is there an adjustment that I need to make? And sometimes it's like a 1 degree adjustment, right? And then you're right in peace. And that's all. So the other thing I see people do, sometimes they get that opposition and they just go in a completely different direction, which that's not usually the case, right? It's not usually, if you're walking with the Lord, you're not usually this far off from where you're supposed to be, right? You're a little micrometer off from where you're supposed to be. And he'll just be like, just get back over here. And that's where you need to be. But it's not about stopping. Don't stop when you're meeting opposition. Seek wisdom. That's what I would say.
So good. Boom. Well, there you go, guys. Your minds should have been blown like mine. You probably want to rewatch this. You definitely want to join that community. You want to get that book. This is a very important conversation, and we will have more, I'm guessing, which I'm very excited about. So thank you guys for joining us from all over the world. I hope you have an awesome day, evening, morning, night. And Darlene, you can stay with me, but everyone else, we're going to say goodbye. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Faith and patience. Faith and patience. Patience means allow it to happen. Stay the same. Stay persistent. Keep going. Faith, know that it can happen at any moment. Get excited because it can happen at any moment. You were so close. Don't quit now. Keep pushing. You got this.